Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the NFL podcast. That despite all of the color alterations we've made to the logo and the ticker and the bottom line here over the past several years, still less color changes than the Cleveland Browns have had head coaches and quarterbacks for even just the last couple of years at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. The podcast that is here to bring you fun football and chaos as often and to our delight and to the delight of all of you beautiful viewers as well. Myself, the Iceman, leading the proceedings per usual, joined by the rest of the troublesome triumvirate that we are here on this podcast. On the bottom of the screen here, your 2025 hashtag SAOC pick challenge champion, the games master, Justin. Justin, how are we doing?
Thanks. I'm doing great, guys. It's fantastic to be back here in real time, and it's been so much fun being your champion. Clearly,
is that what I think it is?
Is that a 2025 championship?
Whoa!
Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
That.
Yeah, you guys want the trophy. I want a little more classy here. And,
I respect it.
Now we all are.
Now, is that made of chocolate though? Is it chocolate wrapped in gold?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
All right, that's unfortunate.
But real diamonds in the ring, and yeah. So happy to be your champ. So happy to be here, guys. It's been a fun year.
How many carrots were used?
I was going to say, so
I don't actually like carrots.
We know that you're not getting paid to do this show. So what budget did you have for a ring with diamonds in it?
It's not real diamonds.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just as to get that out there before one of the viewers
not have a good security system here.
Yes.
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, that and the trophies that the Podfather and I have are just completely, plastic fake material. Please,
I am robbable, and I am not rich, so don't try.
There you go.
It's not worth it.
It is similar to me, but please don't come find me. I appreciate it. And to complete the triumvirate, ladies and gentlemen, of course, on the top of the screen with me, with a new, spanking, beautiful headset for himself, Dr. Professor Podfather the First, ladies and gentlemen. Rick, how we doing?
Gentlemen, this has been a long time coming, what I'm about to reveal to you. I did promise you guys off air that I had a surprise for you. And I'm going to hearken it back to something that we talked about many, many moons ago. And because it's the perfect day to bring it into the fold. That many moons ago during I believe it was the Captain Checkdown and Brendan Blewett episode, there was an argument between Justin and Jurg that revolved around cake.
There was.
And gentlemen, Sean McDermott is no longer Buffalo head coach. I was right all along, so I'm celebrating with a nice big piece of cake. A slab. Yes, a chocolate cake with cookies and cream ice cream from Baskin-Robbins because I freaking deserved it. I would write all along. The I Told You So tour has started in earnest. This one's for Sean McDermott, though. But we paid it off. It took 120 episodes. We finally paid it off, the cake. So, and no, I didn't have to kill anybody to get this cake either. So it's all worked out in the end.
Two show references in one right there. Wait, what was the argument about between me and Justin? I don't remember this.
I remember none of this argument.
It was something regarding one of the head coaches. I think it was Staley. And Jurg,
I probably wanted him fired then.
Well, you all do. You all did. You made a point of saying, but Justin, let's say that you have a neighbor and he bakes you a cake, but the neighbor then turned out to be a mass murderer. Are you still going to enjoy the cake? And I was one who said, what kind of cake is it? What flavor? What frosting? These are very important details that we need to know. So,
yeah, I wouldn't eat a piece of cake.
There's the answer. There's an Oreo on this cake, too. So, mine. Be envious. Justin, you have a nice gold ring. Congratulations. I have cake. I win.
I was going to say, I wish I had cake.
Yeah. I win.
You want to trade?
You want to trade?
Maybe, but we'll see.
By the time you're willing to trade, it's going to be gone.
I know. That's the worst part of it. For you, at least.
What, the cake or the ring?
I'll take the ring.
That's fine.
Lord.
This is going to be so good. This is going to be a fun show. I'm so looking forward to this.
It's going to be a fantastic show, to say the very least, ladies and gentlemen. So while the Podfather enjoys the, can we call it fruits of labor when it's nowhere near fruit? This is
Sweets of labor.
Sweets of labor. There we go.
Yes.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Justin. I can always rely on Justin. As the Podfather enjoys the sweets of labor, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be having a very fun-filled episode. We're going to be talking coaches. Of course, this is the Podfather's I Told You So tour, so there's going to be another I Told You So coming up here. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We have that in the chamber. We'll be talking about the recent head coaches that were hired because there's so many more to be done. We'll have quick conversations about the first 4 candidates that were hired, and a new job opening has been made available as well in recent days. We'll quickly recap the divisional round and then get to the conference championship games. The AFC and the NFC championship games are here. We will analyze and predict them. Wow, it's already the Final Four of the NFL season coming up. That is this season.
It's crazy.
Say at the very least. But before we get to all that, we have fun for a reason. Then again, we have fun throughout the entirety of the episode. But Justin, what do we got? What do you got for us?
All right. Well, we're going to play a Name That Player. I realized that we did not say that. So, back.
Ladies,
Finally.
the return edition of Name That Player.
All right. So we'll start with round 1, guys. You know the drill. We give you 3 hints, and you guys got to figure out who the player is. By the 3rd hint, you get 1 guess each round, and we'll see if we can get it go. So now,
1 guess per each of us, by the way, for the people who are new
each
to the
of you,
program.
correct. So this former 2nd round pick has played 13 seasons in the NFL and is from the the state of Massachusetts. Because Massachusetts is not a town.
13 years in the NFL, 2nd round pick.
I'm glad that we have a geography in place.
Yeah, there we go. Massachusetts. Okay. At least 13 years. Or 13 years.
And won a Super Bowl.
Oh. And he won a Super Bowl, too, huh?
No, he was not a 2nd round pick. Nor do I think he's from Massachusetts. I like how the first name that comes to mind probably doesn't include any of the first couple of needs there.
Yeah, probably not.
Well, you got to find 2nd round picks that won the Super Bowl at the very least. And if you know that they're from Massachusetts, that would help.
But do we know that is the question. That's why this is the Name That Player, of course. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I'm thinking about this now. I'm trying to see if I can lobby a good guess in here to get us on the board, because I don't think I'm going to have the answer right away, but
It's happened before.
It has happened before, hasn't it? When you put Brad Johnson in the week after I mentioned Brad Johnson.
Yeah, right?
Well, I'm not bitter.
I was like, oh, that's why I thought of him.
Oh, yeah, how about that? I'm trying to think, did he win a Super Bowl? I think he did, but I don't think he was a 2nd round pick. The years line up, like the years in the league line up, but I forget if he won a Super Bowl as like a starter or a reserve, but I don't think he was a 2nd round pick.
Jerry, what are you thinking?
I'm honestly like the Massachusetts part is what's getting me. I'm kind of drawing. There's only 1 guy I could think of from Massachusetts off the top of my head, but I don't think he was drafted even, or if he was, he wasn't a 2nd round pick, and he doesn't have a Super Bowl just because of the team he's been on.
Look, obviously round 1 is always the hardest round. It gets easier as it goes because you get more hints.
Right.
Throw it a guess. We can move on to the next one. You don't always have to get it in the first shot, guys.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Who gets the Wordle on the first word? No, you make a guess and then you get more letters.
All right. For fun, it's going to be funny if this guy is from Massachusetts. For fun, I'll say Patrick Ricard from the Ravens.
Ooh, it is not Patrick Ricard.
Can someone double check? Statistician folks, can we check if he's from Massachusetts? Yeah, at least
you can check now that you've guessed him. I think that's fair.
You know what? Actually, so the guy I'm thinking of, he has won a Super Bowl. He did play for, I believe, 13 seasons or close to it. But I don't know. He was definitely not drafted in the second round because that's pretty high for a man of this caliber. But I will lobby my first guess because I do know that he is from Massachusetts. Stephen Hauschka.
Ooh, that's a good guess. Maybe I'll put that in the chamber for a later one, maybe next week. But instead, I'm going to tell you no, that's not it, and we are going to move on to round 2. Now we'll get a little better with this. You'll get a little bit more information. This 3-time first-team All-Pro was drafted out of Villanova and had 93 career sacks.
Villanova?
Yep.
Interesting.
The cake. The cake is either fueling the right answer or giving you brain freeze so that you will never get the answer.
Well, I've eaten all the cake parts. I'll just have the ice cream left, so it's probably going to be the brain
Exactly.
freeze.
Exactly.
You know, I got. You know what, Justin? I'm very impressed with you.
Thank you.
I really am, because this is a, I named that player. We've done a lot of like modern names, guys that have played like in the 2000s or so. As Jerk is going to flip his egg rolls now, I believe he was mentioning off the air.
Blow off his
But
spot.
I know. I still his Sebastian Vettel or whatever he was in the Avatar. He's now Darkwing Duck. Actually, could I change him to Taylor Swift? That'd be hilarious. The reason why I'm impressed is because I didn't realize this player went to Villanova.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't realize that. Because he doesn't strike me as a Villanova type of cat. Catch the pun there, because of the Wildcats. Jerg, I think I have the answer here, but I don't know if maybe while you were flipping your egg rolls over there, if you had something come to you.
First off, it was Kimi Räikkönen. That was the previous image. The Iceman.
Well, as long as it's not Pierre Gasly, I think you're okay.
What do you have against the French?
Bonjour.
We know he hates the Belgian people.
I feel like Rick's got maybe something against every country, just locked and loaded, just in case.
Well, no, we know he loves Wales. We know he
Wales
became
is
I love
country.
dolphins. Who cares?
He came close with the Welsh. No, I don't have a guess. I could not tell you a single NFL player who attended the University of Villanova. I can throw out a funny guess for the shtick.
Why not? Rick seems pretty confident
Chris
he got it.
Hogan. Chris Hogan went to Villanova.
Congratulations! Was that your answer?
No.
Okay, there we go.
It's not.
I mean, it. He will be a name that player one day.
His answer is Ryan Arcidiacono, actually. Yeah.
No. It's Emmanuel Arsenault, actually. No. No. Okay, yeah. For fun, Emmanuel Arsenault. One day, I was going to pull out the Braylon Edwards. Guess one day Braylon Edwards will be Justin's name that player, and I'm
There's
going
a
to
good
nail
chance.
it.
I was a big Braylon Edwards guy.
And I'm going to nail the selection. And
Yep.
when I do, Rick will have to eat crow for all the times he's critiqued me for bringing up Braylon Edwards.
Yeah, like that'll ever happen. Okay, so truthfully, as I mentioned, I am very impressed. I am very happy, I believe. Although I don't necessarily know if the stat numbers line up, but there was a guy that I thought of when you're mentioning 3-time All-Pro, 93 sacks. I don't know if the numbers line up now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, let's see it.
I can't believe he went to Villanova. Is this name that player Howie Long?
It is. It's NFL Hall of Famer Howie Long.
Wow.
Good guess. How did so now here's my question.
Yes.
You didn't know he went to Villanova.
Correct.
You didn't know the stat numbers lined up.
Correct.
You got it from the first hint and 3 first-team All-Pros.
Yeah, I mean, when there's only a few names that I know that come from Massachusetts. To be honest with you, the two guesses.
Massachusetts is what gave it away?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of guesses in my chamber of guys who I know came from Massachusetts that played in the NFL. Hauschka was one of them. I was originally tossed between Hauschka and Matt Hasselbeck, believe it or not. And then once we kind of went like all pros, the only other name that I had was Mark Bavaro. But then when you said sacks, I knew it wasn't going to be an offensive guy. So that's kind of where Howie Long stuck out to me. Did not know he went to Villanova, but thinking about the guys that have come from the whatever they call it, the Bay State, I suppose, whatever they call it nowadays, kind of gave me an idea that was going to be the answer there. And like I said, I'm impressed because it's been a bit since we've had an old timey name.
I know we've been a lot of modern players lately. You guys went right for the modern in round 1, so I said I got to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, and then Jerg went for the crazy with it in round 2.
Always. You know what's funny? Before my Patrick Ricard guess for round 1, Chris Long's name came into my brain. But he was not born in Massachusetts, nor was he a second-round pick. He was the second overall pick, which, the number 2 is still in there. I'm like,
it's something.
That's, 25% credit. His family from Massachusetts. That's an extra, 30%. We're close to a D+ there.
Yeah, you're in good company there. With
and, same side of the ball, and also pretty close in the sacks number, I feel. I think we're at a solid C- with my first original guess before I changed it to a fullback who has done absolutely none of what was accomplished by Howie Long.
Well, actually, I mean, he does have one all pro, right. So he's a third of the way there.
He might have 2.
won't get the sack. Well, I mean, the fullback is a dying guard anyways, so he probably will by default. But
shout out fullbacks.
miss the fullbacks. Good on you, Hunter Lepke. Although the Cowboys are atrocious.
Yeah. Beautiful name that player, Justin. As Rick was singing the praises of a fantastic name that player to get us back in the fold. Wonderful.
That's what champions are made of, right there.
Indeed, they are.
Yes.
They are. So we move.
Unlike Jerg's tier game last week, that was clearly what champions are made of.
I'm sorry, which one of us is the only 2-time champion in the history of the show? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, you're not close. You're not close. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on from the fun. I mean, we're still going to have fun throughout the entirety of the show. Let's go to a bit more of the football. Head coach hiring so far, ladies and gentlemen, of this head coach cycle that a lot of jobs became available. And fun fact, a lot of jobs still are available. And one more recently became available, amazingly enough. With 6 head coaching positions still up for grabs, 4 have been filled. So it was not all at the same time, but 10 NFL head coaching positions came open over the last couple of weeks. Can't think of the last time that double-digit coaching head coach positions were made available like that throughout the league. And plenty of coordinator positions have also been swapping and going about as well. So it's been an active fall. No, winter. We're still in the winter. It's been an active winter, to say the very least, for the teams that are outside and teams that just recently exited the playoff picture. So let's talk about the head coach hiring so far quickly, boys and girls. Let's talk about the one that was, let's be honest, this one was going to be the most shoo-in, especially even we were predicting this before and during last week's episode of the podcast, once he got to the state, once he got to MetLife, and I think they may have locked the doors behind him to ensure that he wasn't going to leave before he signed the contract. But John Harbaugh, and it's probably going to be the one that we spend the most time on, I would assume. John Harbaugh is now the head coach of the New York Football Giants. An official agreement made earlier this week. The longtime Ravens head coach that was finally ousted from the team after many, many years of, just not getting the job done is the most simple way to be able to describe it. John Harbaugh is now leaving the Ravens, leaving the AFC, going to the NFC. I'm sure many, many people are very happy about that he is going, leaving the AFC side of things. Maybe some are happy that he's coming to the NFC. Who knows? It depends on your perspective of things. But John Harbaugh is now going to be head coach of Jackson Dart, Cam Scatabo, and the New York Malik Neighbors, of course, as well, and your New York Football Giants. Podfather, I'm going to throw it to you first. Again, obvious. We felt it was coming. And I think had there been a little bit more time before all these signings, we probably would be doing a segment right now of, which coach would we predict go where. And I feel like all three of us probably would have projected the Giants anyways. It makes sense for this team. The litany of head coach decisions that they've had to create or had to do since they fired Tom Coughlin many moons ago, which Rick has brought it up, not as many times as the Max Unger trade has been brought up on this podcast, but a close silver or bronze medal. But ever since Tom Coughlin's go, it's been a who's who, a cavalcade of guys who just were not that good at being head coaches. And now the Giants, this is the first time I think since Coughlin know that they're actually going with a guy with legitimate, significant, long-term head coach experience. If Jim Schwartz was one of the guys that I'm missing for them, then he was a head coach briefly, but now maybe I'm confusing.
I'm glad you said the words legitimate long-term head coaching experience because nobody cares about Pat Shurmur.
That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
I confused by coaches that were fired at some point in the 2000s, 2010s. But yeah, no, legitimate long-term, many playoff appearances, many divisional championships, a conference championship, and a Super Bowl ring on his resume is a heck of a lot more. Honestly, he might have more wins than the last however many Giants head coaches put together. It's saying a lot. So, Podfather, throw it to you. The Giants go with an experienced guy who knows how to run an organization. And it sounds like from reports I've seen that he's going to have a lot more power than most head coaches would be walking into most positions. So what do you make of John Harbaugh being the guy for the Giants?
What do you think of John Harbaugh being hired as the head coach? There you go. That's my answer. Yeah. It was the slam dunk hire that the Giants needed because, like you had mentioned, for years it's been miserable first-year head coach after miserable first-year head coach. When they got rid of Tom Coughlin, they hired a big fat baby in Ben McAdoo with a really terrible toupee and a bad mustache, and he was good for one season, which was more about the players than about him. And then it was Joe Judge, who I don't know why you make that hire as a special teams coach going to the head coaching rank. That's not the pathway. Then you hire Pat Shurmur, who almost made his son a draft choice and the starting quarterback, which just tells you all you need to know about this. This ain't CYO, kid. Come on now. And then Brian Daboll coming off the success of Josh Allen, and again they had a really good first year. He won Coach of the Year, but again, more about the players than it was about the head coach, I think. And thank God they did not hire Mike Kafka because that was a disaster of an interim head coaching term. What John Harbaugh brings to this team is stability, a winning pedigree, a culture that speaks volumes about how they're going to run as a franchise, and it brings legitimacy to let's be frank about this. We're all in the area. This town is starving for some form of continued success when it comes to their sports franchises. I mean, haven't won a major championship in any of the big four sports since 2011. Been to a couple cup finals with the Rangers and the Devils, if you count the Devils. Been to a couple World Series with the Yankees, the Mets. Knicks have had a couple of runs here and there to conference semis, conference finals, but no one counts the NBA Cup. Let's call it what it is.
That's true.
But this represents the best opportunity to kind of get New York's mojo back. You have all the pieces that are there. It's a young, hungry core, and it's normally you get a little worried when you bring in a brand new head coach because they want to draft their quarterback. They want to draft their guy, But John Harbaugh has been clear from the off that he liked, and that's probably an understatement, liked Jackson Dart a lot. And that is a big key. Jackson Dart in a John Harbaugh style offense is going to be electric. And it's a big if, because he is interviewing in Cleveland for the head coaching job. If Harbaugh gets Todd Monken to come to New York and be the offensive coordinator, then Jackson Dart is going to be fast-tracked towards MVP candidacy because Lamar Jackson won 2 of them in those offenses with how it worked. There's a fast track right there. You have phenomenal role players. There's not really, I would say, there's only a couple of places that I think the Giants need to improve. The offensive line, number 1, and the secondary. And Harbaugh's got a defensive mindset, and he would be a guy that could help, with all of that. And you've seen how in his 17-year stretch, the defensive coordinators he hired were stalwarts. Rex Ryan, Wink Martindale, Zach Orr to an extent, he was okay, but again, a lot of that was also injuries recently. This is just the right hire. It's the right hire. It's galvanizing the franchise that has sorely needed something special. Going into this offseason, when you have your guys in Dart and Scadaboo and Neighbors, if you want to call Andrew Thomas a big guy, sure, but you have Abdul Carter on the back line. You've got a lot of young, talented, hungry players that are there looking to win. And now they have the right guy there to make this work. I think, no question in my mind, this was the best hire. And it speaks volumes when, breaking news, Baltimore is closing in on replacing John Harbaugh with Jesse Minter of the Chargers, their defensive coordinator.
Wow.
Defense for defense. It speaks volumes about what they like and what they know. And despite the fact that Harbaugh was there for 18 years, they're just going to run it back with the same kind of thing because Minter is that style of defensive head coach. So, again, for the Giants, absolute home run pick.
And I think the key thing you mentioned, and this is probably going to be brought up in conversations we're going to have with a little bit with the head coaching, other head coaches that have been hired, but especially guys as they're getting hired, is I think now more than ever in this league, what coordinators are you bringing with you to help you out? And if Harbaugh can bring with him, let's be honest, it was going to be Todd Monken or Greg Roman because that's what the Harbaugh brothers know, especially John. Like he brings in a Monken with him, a guy who he's worked with, who he has had success with, can work that out with Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors, and that crew. Like you have the basis of an offense that can be really good there in New York, and you got the pieces on the like. I think, Justin, throwing it to you, I think everyone can agree last season, a better coaching staff, a better staff that could put players in better positions, scheme better, and just overall like leading and disciplining a team more. A better coaching staff could have gotten more out of a Giants team that even with a disappointing season, even with all the issues they had, could have and should have done even a little bit better than what they finished up doing. So it's so easy to bring up the coordinator stuff, but I think as you were about to get to, like the presence, Justin, that John Harbaugh is bringing, and just the I guess the way he carries himself and the way he goes about business, and how that might be the biggest impact of anything that he's bringing to New York.
I mean, sure, you got to think of all the high-priced talent and first-round picks to have along that defensive line for them to have been, so unproductive. And I get that the secondary had issues. And teams know how to take advantage of that. But, I mean, I don't know if it's a scheming issue. I mean, like, if you're talking about trading Kayvon Thibodeau halfway through the year because you're not getting defensive production and you want to focus on certain guys, like, clearly I think you're doing something wrong there, right? I mean, they did a great job putting together talent in the team. Obviously, they've struggled drafting linemen. It just has not really worked out for them outside of maybe Andrew Thomas. But, like, this is a guy that's going to come in and he knows how to play defense and he knows how to scheme properly. He still understands the league. Obviously, there were some issues. And if you want to put it on coaching decisions or you want to put it on maybe offensive inconsistencies, I think you could do either one. But this seems like a step in the right direction. I mean, the last time the Giants hired a pre-existing head coach with high pedigree, they won 2 Super Bowls. So, I mean, realistically, they didn't have a coach that already won a Super Bowl. It's very difficult to do that. I think has there ever been a head coach that's won a Super Bowl in 2 places? I don't know if there has been. So,
no, not that comes to mind. No.
Outside of that, I mean, I still think that they have some time that they're going to need to put together. Things can turn around very quickly in the NFL, as we saw with the Bears, and the difference between having a head coach that can scheme and can't scheme. No insult intended, but just the facts, what I see. That makes a very big difference. There's a huge difference between good coaches and bad coaches and well-coached teams and poor coach teams in the NFL. So we're going to see what happens, but it definitely seemed like the home run pick for the Giants.
Yeah, and we all, yeah, 100%. And we saw the news last week. It's like they weren't going to let him leave. It's like, yeah, he's going to be a Giant. it just felt like it was meant to be. It was going to happen, and there is a lot to like. There's a lot to still be improved. I gotta say, man, ball is in Joe Shane's court. He's still got to fix a couple of things. He's still got to do some stuff. He's got to improve this team. It's going to be very, very interesting to see like the pressure that's going to be put on him. Not the only guy who came out of Buffalo who's an executive that has pressure on them, but this just like the guy that taught him, he was able to push the head coach onto the sword. And in this case, Joe Shane's coming away with a pretty good replacement for his previous head coach. We'll see what happens in a certain other team here and discuss that in a little bit. I think this is probably the second biggest hire I think is in agreement so far, especially after some Twitter, some tweets were sent out within the last 24 to 48 hours about this. But Kevin Stefanski is the head coach now for the Atlanta Falcons. Can't really say I'm surprised by this. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. I don't know. Kyle Pitts is not going to be there maybe for much longer. If he does, it's maybe only on a very short-term deal. But even looking at Lidstrom and McGray and Matthews and the offensive line that they've had, the story of the Atlanta Falcons the last 2 seasons has been underperformance city. And whether it's, we'll have that conversation here in a little bit, or maybe even in the coming weeks of, what more could have been done. It's very obvious to see the inconsistencies on offense is one of the things that absolutely crushed this team. And now you bring in a guy that the entire story for him has been the fact that there's been 0 quarterback consistency in Cleveland. And heck, honestly, this is probably going to be the best, most talented running back he's getting to work with. And this is a guy that got to work with Nick Chubb for a couple of years, but that just says how good Bijan Robinson is. Arguably, Derrick Henry's a monster. Bijan's a top 5 running back in the league. And for some people, is even top 3, top 4. I don't even think there's a disagreement there. Can't wait for us to try to do a levels game on that in a couple weeks' time, and he doesn't somehow make it past level 1. But in the meanwhile, Bijan Robinson is an uber-talented running back. And Kevin Stefanski gets that. He gets a number 1 receiver in Drake London. The quarterback situation is going to be interesting here. And Justin, I'm going to throw it to you, and I think this is going to be the pressing question here. Literally, he's only just been hired the last couple of days, so we can't have any idea of what the decision is going to be. But there's new management in Atlanta as well. It wasn't just a new head coach. It was a new general manager as well because their previous GM got kicked to the curb, as it should. What do you make, Justin, of the fact that in a quarterback class that right now from the projections I'm seeing, it really only feels like 2 guys are going in the first round, maybe a third if teams get quarterback needy per usual. But in a draft where especially they don't have a first-round pick, you kind of have to assume Atlanta's going to go in-house. And knowing what we know about Kevin Stefanski, Justin, what do you think he'll do for this team? And what quarterback decision do you think he's going to make when it comes to this Falcons team?
I mean, it's interesting because realistically, you haven't really seen a lot from either quarterback on the team. I understand why the GM gets fired in a season where you, after a couple seasons after you spend $400 million on a quarterback or $200 million on a quarterback and then draft one in the first round when you have a needy defense and lots of players available. And then all of a sudden you have a quarterback controversy and an underperforming team. That's got to go. I get that. As I cough my apparent sickness away. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. I don't know who he chooses. My gut tells me that I think Kirko will probably win out on that job. You got to teach Michael Penix a little bit more, let him sit a little bit more. He was always supposed to be a project coming out of school, even with all of that arm talent and, ability. But they got to figure out exactly how to stay healthy and how to get that offense performing correctly. Because if they can be consistent on offense, they'd be a much better threat. And you could say the same thing about defense also. I mean, Raheem Morris was a defensive coach, but that doesn't mean that defense was running on all cylinders at all times. They just were the picture of inconsistency. They played up to the good teams, and they played down to the bad teams, and you never knew week to week which team was going to win. Unfortunately, I don't even know if that was a Raheem thing because they were like that before he got there too. So it's a tough situation. It's going to be a lot to see. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, Stefanski. Obviously, we'll see how the difference is in Cleveland next year. But I could see the vision. I just don't necessarily agree with it or know how it's going to play out in Atlanta.
It's not just a quarterback question in Atlanta, really, for your Stefanski to answer. They have a lot of impending free agent decisions they have to make to guys that are significant players on their roster or significant roles on their roster. Tyler Algier is an impending free agent. So that's a obviously Bijan's your main guy, but Algier was a good foil for that. Arnold Bekite, who has, who in his 4 years there, he's been really good. 120, 16 and a half sacks in 4 years, pretty solid. Troy Anderson, another guy. These are guys that we drafted in our first ever mock draft. You have Kyle Pitts, who I know he's kind of not been, as great as the number 8 pick has been, wanted to be, but there's a lot of question marks in Atlanta, I think, that, you have to go with aside from the quarterback question. I think what's interesting to me is that Kevin Stefanski has made a couple of moves already for his staff. He brought Bill Callahan, who left Tennessee after his son got kicked to the curb. He brought him on to be his offensive line coach. And interestingly enough, he brought over his offensive coordinator, Tommy Reese, the former Notre Dame project. So he's going to be the OC in Atlanta now, too. Not sure if they're going to be keeping Jeff Ulbrich. All signs point to yes, he's going to stay on. But this is an interesting juncture for Atlanta. It's an established head coach with a new president of football operations in Falcons folk hero Matt Ryan. Like you said, they don't have their number one pick this year because they traded it to get a second defensive lineman last year, which is really very interesting and strange. Michael Penix is going to be entering his age 26 season with a third torn ACL or something, or third torn knee, torn patellar tendon. It is what it is. At the same time, it's just, I think Atlanta's in an interesting spot, and this was the right hire for them, no question about it. They needed to get somebody with experience back into the fold over there, and I think Stefanski's the right guy for it. I just don't know what kind of success he's going to have year one, because this is a very complicated division. We'll put it that way. They could potentially be a team that steals away the division next year, but I don't know. New Orleans looked really good. Tampa had injury setbacks; they'll probably bounce back. And then there's Carolina, who somehow won the division and almost knocked off the Rams, because football's weird. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I like this one, and I think again, it's either your two established guys were gone. We're off the books early. It was like if Harbaugh didn't go to New York, Atlanta would have been next, and if Stefanski didn't go to Atlanta, then I guess I don't know, maybe Jeff Hafley might have been next, because he was a big name that was going around there, and he ended up being, as we move on here, hired by the Dolphins to be their new head coach. There's some continuity there between head coach, general manager, John Eric Sullivan from Green Bay, the new general manager in Miami. There's talk about them possibly bringing in Malik Willis to be their quarterback down there, because they're not really sure about Tua. Obviously, I mean, how can you be sure about Tua? Jeff Hafley comes from a decent enough pedigree. He was, the D coordinator for the Packers past couple of years. He's been a kind of a bouncing back and forth between the NFL and the pros since 2011, when he was the Rutgers D-backs coach. They went to the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Browns, the Niners, then Ohio State in 2019 as their co-DC and defensive backs coach. Then was the head coach for a time at Boston College, where he actually, for BC, for the 4 years that he was at BC, he was 22 and 26, which is saying something for Boston College. They're not exactly known to be a big-time school when it comes to football, but he did good enough, and now he's here. Interestingly enough, this also is a former wide receiver who went to Pascack Hills High School in Montvale, New Jersey, and a graduate of the Siena University football institution. It was Siena College, not Siena University. You can tell that people aren't very happy about that. But in any event, 46-year-old Jeff Hafley, the new head coach of Green Bay, because Jerg needed to go off and figure out his life without me making fun of Stefanski any further in Cleveland. So we're on the Jeff Hafley now, bud.
I was listening to the show. I'm trying to keep up with you boys.
Okay, we're on the Jeff Hafley. What are your thoughts?
Indeed we are. Well, real quick on Stefanski. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I basically agree with everything you both said. No, I mean, Hafley, it's an interesting decision. Ultimately, like when I saw his name float around, I was just kind of like, hey, he's getting interviews, good. Like, I don't know. I didn't necessarily think he was going to get one of the jobs, but he did. Like you said, Rick, between college football and the NFL for quite a while now, good spot in Green Bay the last couple of years where he's helped coach up all intents and purposes, really good Green Bay defense that in moments could have been even better. It's just certain things held it back. Lo and behold, this is the definition. This defense has been something that's been held back for a couple of years now, injury being one of those things. So he's got plenty of experience in that department. I think it's interesting. This is a first-time NFL head coach. So it's like I'm always loving to see a potential really good first-time NFL head coach get an opportunity. It looks like from Rick's report earlier, it's definitely broken by Rick, by no one else. Mints are getting an opportunity in Baltimore. Like, we're going to see a couple first-time head coaches here. I'm very excited to see that. I like seeing first-time head coaches. And, like you guys said, I think in a somewhat similar situation, except the fact that this is not an old general manager in Miami, it's still Chris Greer that's calling the shots there. Like, where a guy like Stefanski is having to make the decision ultimately of of course, GM has to make many decisions there in Atlanta, but one of the choices that if you assume they can't do much in the quarterback spot, who is Stefanski going to pick? If you're Jeff Hafley, you're walking into a situation where Tua was benched at the end of last season, and whether you want to say it was to hide and maybe he got dinged up a bit too much throughout the season, which it feels like every single quarterback does at this point, whether it's a performance thing, definitely played a part of it. Like, it's one of those things where for the benching, what are the odds that they can even really get rid of Tua? Like, I think they're just going to have to write it out. So can Jeff Hafley, I think his first big test is going to be, can he kind of like bring together this Dolphins locker room that's going to be in a flux of a situation right now? And, what is it going to look like? Is Tua going to be there? Is he going to be starting? What is his confidence? Like, is Tyreek Hill going to be there? Right? Like, I think he's exited the memory of so many people. If Tyreek Hill can come back, and let's say he's 75 at best, 75% of what he was at like his best in Miami. That's better than any receiver the Dolphins had last season, right? So it's a situation where him and the group of coordinators that he's brought in, like, what are they going to have to work with? What are they going to have to play with, right? Like, the Dolphins have been making so many moves, right? And we were talking even midway through the season, like, is Bradley Chubb long for this team? Is Minka Fitzpatrick, who they just got back like a little over a year ago, still going to be on this team? That's two big pieces that a guy like Hafley would love to have. And imagine if Greer were to get rid of them, then what the hell is he walking into with a team losing a 10-sack potential guy and a really good safety? So for Hafley, I feel, what I think is going to happen with him? I think he's going to have one of those, like, we're going to have to, like, not incomplete, but we're going to have to really heavily weigh his first year as a head coach on what is Chris Greer going to do with this roster here. And I think that is ultimately, you can make the case for so many guys for that, but I think a head coach walking into an unstable situation, that's the best way you can evaluate it. Like, he's not going into it. Like, the Giants, a core is there in New York, right? A core is there on offense and defense. And if you tinker and build around it, a good general manager, they could make a sneaky wild card run next year, right? They could. In Atlanta, there are young pieces there on the defensive side, right? Like, they just recently had the 2 first-round picks on the defensive side of the ball from last year's draft. You have a number 1 receiver. You have a number 1 running back. There's a little bit there, right? And Miami, I don't know what they have. You could make the argument they might be the second worst head coaching situation that's been filled so far. And at least the other team that we're going to have to talk about, they have a for sure franchise quarterback, at least for the next 2-3 years. Miami's guy, they're going to try to see if they can Carson Wentz him and get him out of there before the rest of the contract happens. Like, it's not good. So Hafley, I think it's a solid choice. I'm not surprised, really looking back now that he was getting a job. This might be the tough one to take. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a bad rap in a year or two, but it's not going to be his fault. It's going to be the fact that Chris Greer is just not putting him in a position to succeed.
Well, you do also know that Chris Greer is not anywhere near the Miami Dolphins anymore.
I thought they retained him. They fired him too.
Oh, he's gone. John Eric Sullivan from the Packers is their new GM.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Well, so one thing about Hafley too that I do got to point out is that in 2019 he was the co-defensive coordinator for Ohio State, which had some pretty big names that were on that defense, including but not limited to Jeff Okudah, Chase Young, Jonathan Cooper, Malik Harrison, and a couple of young freshmen, Tommy Eichenberg, Tommy Tongiai, and interestingly enough, a guy who was on defense who's now on offense, Cade Stover, was a freshman linebacker for Ohio State, and that was the Texans' number 2 tight end.
There you go. Shout out to him.
Yeah, so Hafley does have experience with, pretty significant pieces and pretty significant players in the college ranks who are now doing very well in the pros. So
I thought you were going to hit us with a Bosa brother there. I thought maybe Nick had been there at that point.
No, I mean, I was going to hit you with a Baron Browning reference, but I don't know if you would get it. This is fine. It is what it is. Justin, so you have Jeff Hafley, who is now entering your division. But it's Miami. And
Justin is unperturbed by that.
Justin doesn't seem like he's that worried. I guess the big question is quarterback the number 1 spot that Miami has to look into this year? And will they possibly do the thing that everyone thinks will be hilarious and bring Malik Willis down to Miami to compete with Quinn Ewers?
Well, I mean, you guys say it's an unstable situation, but it is an easier division in that you really only have to play 3 teams. So that helps your situation for sure. But realistically, Jurg is right. I mean, regardless of who the GM is, what do you do with this roster? You have a lot of aging veterans. You got a lot of guys with injury concerns, both young and old. This team has underperformed for a long time. The defense has underperformed for a long time. The offense is always injured. What do you do to turn this thing around? And there's just so many question marks and so many red flags that do you judge a coach on his first year? I mean, seriously, like what do you I don't really know which direction to go with this roster. There's so many holes, there's so many question marks, and it would make sense to clean house, but then you have the worst, you're bad another year, and people don't want to do that. So it is going to be a tall task for this guy to come in there and figure out where the talent is and who has to go. Because I think that's the first thing him and his new general manager need to do.
Yeah.
From there on, they got a lot to build.
Keep in mind also, Miami hasn't won the AFC East in going on 17 years now. 18 years, actually, 2008. And they haven't won a playoff game now going on 26 years when they beat the Colts in overtime in 2000 before losing to the Raiders 27-0 to kickstart their misery.
I was going to say, I know Justin mentions the division
They
there.
still have more playoff wins in the 2000s.
That's true.
Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Justin mentions the division there, but like, even if what we think could happen to them over this next summer, like the Bills are still going to be competing. The Patriots are there. Like, yeah, Miami is probably going to get a cheeky win over one of them, but just this is a tough situation that Hafley's going into. Thankfully, he's going in there with a new general manager with him, the guy that hired him. But
listen, if you're going to be bad and you're going to risk losing your job,
be bad with your
might
friends.
as well do it in Miami.
Oh, that too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, just don't get invited to Tyreek's house.
I would say you're probably better off going to Tyreek's house before you are to AB.
Well, except for the part of the show where part of it got burned down and no one knows why.
Well, some people have theories.
Yes.
No, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting first year for Jeff Hafley, to say the very least. And this is the definition of maybe when we see how this roster shakes out, we can make an accurate statement of, is this going to be a team that tries to get some cheeky wins and pull off some upsets next year, or Let's not forget when Dan Campbell first got to Detroit, like there were a lot of question marks in Detroit that first year for him. Like I think his first year was it pre the Jared Goff trade or it's as Goff just got there and they had to completely they had to build him back up plus everything else. So we'll see if he'll get to build up with Tua or if it will be as Rick has alluded to, will it be Malik Willis or will Quinn Ewers get a shot down in Miami to say the very least, or will Tua be able to outlast and prove us all wrong, and he gets to keep his job? Yeah, probably not. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Plenty of questions to be answered in Miami via their new general manager in John Eric Sullivan. So that is the third of the 4 hirings, and the last one here. This is an interesting one. To say the bare minimum, the Tennessee Titans made a head coaching hire. Not the guy who I thought they were going to bring in. But again, what did I say a couple of years ago when they fired Mike Vrabel? You're going to take a guy who is the opposite of the guy you just fired. And they're continuing to do that because they hired a guy who is the opposite of Brian Callahan. And they're getting a, granted, special offensive consultant role or whatever the hell kind of job that he got in 2024. But it's coming off a second stint with the San Francisco, still continuing the stint there. Well, actually, they just finished up in the playoffs. Never mind. Now, former San Francisco defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, former New York Jets head coach as well, and now head coach of the Tennessee Titans. You want to talk about a guy where his offensive coordinator selection is going to be critical in this one because he ain't going to be the one calling the offensive consultant role in the past. Be danged! I don't know where to go with this one. When I was talking about the Dolphins maybe being the second worst of the jobs already filled in terms of roster construction, this one might take the cake for number one, even if we include the ones that are not yet filled so far, although maybe they're not the worst of the worst. Young quarterback in Cam Ward, figuring out what the pieces are going to be around him offensively, hoping the offensive line can take a step next season. You've had good defensive players in the past. They're in Tennessee, show up, and you've developed a couple decent guys. They're going to be banking to do that again. It's going to be tough. It's tough to grade this hire because this feels like the definition of there has to be a rebuild job there. Robert Saleh, whatever we may want to say about him, probably the worst possible situation when he was in as the New York Jets head coach was being the head coach of a team that unexpectedly, because of the strength of the defense and the surprise acquisition of at that point you would have thinking is still pretty all right star quarterback, expectations were changed, and then they were changed again. Now in Tennessee, they talk about in Miami, okay, what is he was Haflick walking into, and what is going to be the expectations going to be discussed internally. The expectations for Tennessee, it's going to be another tough year of just hoping certain guys perform. That, from an outsider perspective, what can you hope from the Tennessee Titans next year other than hoping that Cam Ward can get a couple more good games, good performances under his belt, can improve as a NFL starting quarterback, which is what he is, and you hope that you continue to draft well, develop, and find the pieces around him. I think that's going to be the very interesting thing with everything, the media circus that surrounded Bob Saleh in New York, especially what we talked about in this podcast of how he exited the team, and we know what played a role there. Is this a case where maybe the second time is the charm for him? And if the expectation in Tennessee is it's going to be a tough go, but we need a guy to lead us through this rough rebuilding process, maybe they trust him to be the guy, especially with expectations if they're calibrated properly. So we'll see. So Rick, you've put your hands together, you've laughed, you've made faces, you're shaking your head, you got to smile. I was going to throw it to Justin, but I think I have to throw it to you first, just with the emoting. What is in your mind with the Bob Saleh head coach hiring for Tennessee?
Well, so here's the thing. I'll get into why Saleh won the job because there's a pretty good idea of what happened. I'll get into that first, and then I'll tell you the funny thing that I just read about as his possible offensive coordinator plan. So the thing with Saleh is that he is one of the best researchers and game planners and planning, preparing to fail, planning, and all that sort of thing there is. He basically wowed the entire Titan staff with a game plan on how to develop Cam Ward, how to build the right core around him, and what to do in case a coordinator leaves. What's the backup plan so they don't miss a lockstep there? Which the Titans, that's what they want. They want somebody to build around Cam Ward and make their plays, around all that. He got a chance to meet with the owner. The owner got to see for herself how Saleh is, energy wise, engagement wise. Keep in mind the Robert Saleh that we saw on the sideline in San Francisco is a lot different from the Robert Saleh we saw on the sideline in New York with Gang Green. When Robert Saleh has like his own freedom and his own abilities, he can be an emotional head coach. He can be, all about, the right sort of things. When the Jets initially hired him, that's what he was showing. And then, of course, it all went wayside from there because Woody Johnson and his kids were, jerks. But regardless, now they hired him. They gave him the job on the spot, basically. The Titans had interviewed a few candidates virtually, and the only candidate up until Saleh that had been in the building was Matt Nagy, which is just hilarious because Matt Nagy should be nowhere near a head coaching job for any reason whatsoever. So Robert Saleh has all this game planning going forward. All of these things, we're going to do this. Here's what we're going to do in case this fails. This is what we're going to do here. Yada, 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 all these things. And everyone's like, okay, great. No, this is really good. We like this. So who are you going to bring in to be the offensive coordinator? And this is what I read. Arthur Smith. We're going to go back to the well of what we had before and then bring him back. It's just... Oh, you can't make this stuff up, man. You can't make this stuff up. If that's what it is, it's not going to do him any good to be, back in Tennessee unless, he's got something on Amy Adams or Bergonzi or whatever. But it's just like, really?
I mean, that is where he had the most success is the only thing you could argue, but that was Derrick Henry was there. Like,
yeah. And they literally have an OC on the staff who's only been there for 2 years. Obviously, he hasn't done anything right and good. But you want to retread a Titans hire or bring in. There was actually something that I read that said that the possibility is that if Arthur Smith doesn't get the job there as the OC, that circumstances where Brian Dable was next up. And could you imagine the 1-2 punch of the ex-New York head coaches being in Nashville with Cam Ward? Be hilarious, right?
Yeah. Well, good thing Dayball held out because there might be a new job coming his way.
It's very possible. It's not a great spot to be in because they don't have a lot of good players there, or depth or anything like that. So it is just Cam Ward and basically a bare cover, especially when Johnny Hecker's a free agent. So is Chikakonkwo. So what's remaining? No one really knows. So it's a reclamation project. It's going to be a big project to work in. The only good thing that's going to come out of Tennessee, I guess, is that they have a new stadium coming next year. The new Nissan Stadium will be built and will be ready to go for 2027. So you got to get one more year in the old barn of just misery and woe, and maybe you get another number 1 overall pick unless, Cam Ward has a great game and ruins your number 1 overall pick chances. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate that. But, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens from there.
I mean, the preference would be Cam Ward takes the leap that you don't have to worry about getting a first overall pick because he is the guy. You would prefer that.
Yes, Cam Ward takes the leap and throws it to who exactly?
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
So, what, Justin, first clarify, are you saying you'll be a Tennessee receiver, or are you going to try to name a Tennessee receiver that Cam Ward could
No, I'll play.
A, and then B,
I'll take a minimum contract.
There we go.
Yeah, prorated.
All right, Justin, your reaction to Robert Saleh. Again, I was going to throw it to you first before Rick, but your reaction to this is Robert Saleh gets his second chance as a head coach in the NFL.
And especially after listening to Rick, I mean, as a former Jets fan and seeing what Robert Saleh can do, I have never been more confident in a coach's success in my entire life. I mean, this is just quintessential Jets written all over it. They screwed it up bad, and they didn't give the guy the right tools to do the job. They hindered him at every turn, and then he turns around and becomes like this perpetually playoff bound coach. And they go, oh, I don't know why he couldn't coach for the Jets. I know why he couldn't coach for the Jets. It's because you're the goddamn Jets. All right.
It's true. Very true.
And that's why he was a good head coach in the Jets. There were definitely times where he struggled. There were definitely times where, things were not ideal. But I think a lot of the issue was not necessarily his fault. I don't like to do that with head coaches. I like to say that, hey, look, you got to be able to roll the punches in the game. The thing is, it is what it is. But I would say the same thing about Joe Douglas. I mean, when you hear the stories that came out of the Jets organization at the time, I mean, there's a reason that Woody was voted the worst owner in that time period. And now he's trying to get the coaches poll banned or the player poll banned. But or shut down or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely the qualities of a good head coach there, from his demeanor to his energy to the way his players love him and want to play for him. I mean, clearly that defense has not been the same since he left or was ousted from New York. Clearly, some of these players have not played the same way since they have not been under his pedigree. And if anyone can get that defense humming, it's certainly him. Now, you're right. Offensively, they're going to have to figure out exactly what the plan is. But, I mean, he's also a well-liked guy around the NFL. I have confidence that he can get a staff in there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. It'll be interesting to see what the GM does, because I don't remember their name. But I know it is a newer GM as well. And I am confident they're going to turn it around. Maybe not next year.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm going to say is, don't just hire constant retreads. If you want to bring in a new coordinator who wants to, try and elevate themselves, that's fine too. Like, it's not just.
No, I mean, you gotta bring in the right guy. It could be a retread, but it's got to be the right guy. You need to know what your system is, what your players are good at, where you can make certain guys shine, what position you want to put them in. This is also part of the reason. I mean, I understand the idea of coming in and saying, this is my system and this is the way we're going to play.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way necessarily with every team. You have to go in there and you have to say, all right, these are the talents that I have on offense. That's why it was such a miraculous run with Lamar. People came in and they said, how are they going to adjust to a running quarterback? They've always been a running back running team first, with a passing quarterback who can throw the ball over the top and has like a huge arm. And it's not that Lamar has a bad arm, but he wasn't known as the quintessential long arm accurate quarterback. He was known as a runner who was great at making short passes and turning things from small gains into large gains. That was not the way the Ravens played. Yeah. And then they bring in Lamar, and all of a sudden the entire offense is catered to Lamar, because they say, if we want to shine, we need to make this guy shine.
Yeah.
No, I never understood that. At the highest level, coaches can't do that. So you got to bring in the right guys, and if you're just going to bring in your friends and say, we're going to figure it out, then you're probably not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think of too is that just to add more fun to it, the levity. I mentioned Arthur Smith being possibly the offensive coordinator. Let's just hire everyone that Justin's fired in the past few years. Matt Rule will be your new quarterback's coach. Why not? Let's have
make
some
it
fun.
and all of a sudden it's the most successful team in NFL.
Yeah, how about that?
Right?
How about that? Yeah.
Frank Reich, special offensive consultant.
Jeff Saturday's your O-line coach.
Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator, just for my love.
Yeah.
Matt Eberflus, a senior defensive assistant.
Ooh, yikes!
And they somehow go 17-0.
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
Damn Titans.
No, I'm with you guys. I think Robert Saleh is a guy who this is a massive opportunity for him. And to your point, more freedom. Hopefully he gets to express himself more. He has his plan. And if they could stick to it and do roll with the punches, and kind of like what Justin is saying, I think now in a second chance where there's hopefully some more freedom, there is a chance that he can roll with the punches more in Tennessee. And it's like, bad week, move on to the next one.
It is a double-edged sword, though, because this is his second coaching opportunity, and he is going to a dumpster fire of a team.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So
with a relatively new general manager, as you were saying, Justin, it's Mike Borgonzi, I think is how you say it last.
I mean, how often do you see a guy get a coordinator job right after a failed head coaching job? You know what I mean? Like there's usually some distance.
Well, yeah,
it happens.
Guys get hired pretty quickly.
Like McDaniel.
Guys get hired. But like how many head coaches have you seen that have gone right to coordination right after a head coach job recently? Most of the time they go to college. They take like a skill position coaching job. They do some consulting. He went right back to being the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, which is a great job for him. He did a great job there. and now he's a head coach again. And let's just say it. If he fails at head coach, are people going to take him back as a coordinator? Let's say the 49ers fill their role and they're happy with it. That job is no longer there.
I think he has enough experience and success as a defensive coordinator. He's made it to. He has multiple playoff appearances, and didn't they make it to the Super Bowl when he was DC the first time?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Listen.
When you have a good track record as a coordinator, you will find work. Like some of the guys that you're mentioning that they're going into being the collegiate ranks. I'm sorry to say they were stooge head coaches in the NFL. They should have probably never been head coaches to begin with. Robert Saleh, you can make the argument he probably should have gotten like a better first rap in New York. Like Joe Judge in college, it makes sense. That is a control freak. That is a dude that needs to be ordering people around, and he can't order around guys who are making more money than him. Like Billy O'Stooge, Bill O'Brien. Like when his trips into the
I'll make the argument that Bill O'Brien was a good head coach when he wasn't the GM. It's when he got power hungry and lost his mind, and that's when the problem started.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. I will say this too: San Francisco is looking to promote Gus Bradley. That job is safe for Saleh if he wants to go back to it. It's safe. Like Gus Bradley's your typical seat filler, like your seat filler at the Oscars. Like you're good. You're good.
Gus Bradley, the worst head coach of all time in win percentage, minimum something games.
Yes, and Gus Bradley, who I think was at one point 6th on the all-time Jaguars win list, better than Urban Meyer.
And yet less than Liam.
He made it a little bit farther than Urban Meyer.
Well,
yeah, a good few guys have been. One of us could become the Jags head coach in like 2028. We'll get more wins than Urban Meyer. Most likely.
Oh wow, we're kicking Liam Cohen to the curb that fast?
He's going to get a better job.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Don't worry, you guys can be my coordinators.
Sweet.
Rick on special teams.
I got the headset ready for you. I'll be up in the booth. I'm ready to go.
Or is it Jurg on special teams? I know he's for the brand.
He's for the brand. He's big.
No. I'll get Rick and have special teams. I'll take like a defensive analyst role or something.
Wow, you're bequeathing me the kicking and punting roles?
I respect you to a high level.
What do you want from me?
We want you to find that Division 2 kicker that nobody knows about.
Oh, I can find you one of those.
I know, exactly. That's what we're all over it.
Rick would find us a D2 kicker, pick him in the 7th round. He's going to kick the NFC, AFC, whatever freaking conference we're in.
Going to score the most points of all time.
He's going to kick us into the Super Bowl.
Director of pro scouting, baby. That's what I am.
Yep. So, fantastic. So we've talked about the 4 head coaches hired. Let's sort of mold this into a continuation of coach openings and the first game of the divisional round recap that we're going to get into. Man, what a tough one that was for the Buffalo Bills, eh? Dude. I don't have any words as my laptop continues to ding. I don't have many words to say. What has my tagline been every single year the Bills have made it to the playoffs? I hate this laptop. What is my tagline?
There it is.
Whoop! No. Whoop that trick. No. It's
only a matter of time before Sean McDermott gets fired. Oh, look at that. That's my tagline.
If not now, then when?
Never.
I had more guesses. I'm not going to lie.
I did too.
Thanks. I have said that for years. If not now, then when for the Buffalo Bills?
That wasn't going to be one of my guesses. Ride that pony.
Likewise. Get the tables.
Yeah. There's lots of things I would have guessed before, if not.
Jury's out. Are we still accepting guesses for what I was going to say? The answer is no. Thank you. Now,
the issue is I couldn't think of more guesses because I was going to keep guessing. I was going to be like, I'm the champ. You can't look at this.
That's why, ladies and gentlemen, the gong is here now. Anyways,
right there.
Ring.
Show
ring.
There you go. Fake ring. Anyways, as we continue, on, the Broncos and the Bills played in the first divisional game of this past weekend. They played in the Saturday afternoon affair, and what a game it was! It started out relatively interesting, right? For a brief moment, it's like, are the Broncos going to kind of take this game away? Are they going to run away with it? Kind of what happened last year, the opposite way? No, that didn't end up happening. What ended up happening is we ended up getting a very, very close game, a game that went to overtime, ladies and gentlemen. The Broncos, the defense was doing its thing relatively, well in the second quarter. It was a 10-10 game, late touchdown, and then Josh Allen did something you didn't expect to happen. Someone tugged on Superman's cape, and Superman fumbled the football very close to the middle of the field to where
We didn't expect Josh Allen to throw an interception.
Oh, I expected it.
I'm talking about the
Look,
fumble.
I didn't expect it at the time, but like I'm never surprised that Josh Allen throws an interception.
That wasn't the surprising part. It's the fact that in that kind of a situation that this Buffalo Bills team, and maybe this will lead to the head coach firing that happened, this Bills team lacked the discipline, lacked the luck, lacked whatever you want to attribute it to. They end up fumbling in the dying moments of the first half, puts Denver in a spot where I don't even think they had to run any plays. Will Lutz just waltzed right out there and kicked the field goal to make it a 20-10 game. Another field goal early in the third to make it 23-10. At that point, it's like if Buffalo don't score soon, this game is about it. Denver couldn't run away with it in the Mile High City. There was a very small possibility that could have happened. But Buffalo charged back. They took the lead. They had a 4-point lead. Denver then had a touchdown with under a minute to go. And Buffalo, Matt Prater from 50 himself, tied game. Circle back and bring them all. And it was a tied game. We go to overtime, and Justin mentioned it before. He threw an interception earlier in the game, and he threw another one in the most critical moment after four plays and punting for Denver, which I think was very close there on the last play for them before they punted. It was like 3rd and short, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they got to 4th and short. Buffalo 9 plays, 29 yards. They're going down the field, and they threw an interception. Not the last heartbreaking interception thrown by a quarterback in overtime this past weekend. We'll get to that in a little bit. But ultimately, they throw the interception. Denver gets 2. Let me finish the game recap before we go. 2 defensive pass interferences get called on the final drive for the Denver Broncos, and they kick the field goal. They get the victory. Another heartbreaking loss to another AFC West team. This time they did it in style. They didn't lose to the Chiefs. They lost to the Broncos. If not now, then when is a question that's going to have to be solved by Josh Allen and questionably Brendan Bean, because Sean McDermott got fired. So I'll leave it to you guys. Who wants to take it first? And you want to talk about the game? You want to talk about McDermott being fired? You want to talk about that very awkward press conference that we had earlier between Bean and Pagula? Like, whatever you want to hit at first, go ahead. Although by Rick's byline there, I think he has an opinion about that interception that happened in overtime.
It was an interception. Shut up. I've decided that in 2026 I'm going to be very contentious with NFL fans of other teams. Like, it was an interception. You want to bellyache and moan about it and bemoan your fate? Go out there on defense and stop them from getting down the field. Oh, you can't do that? Well, then you deserve to lose the game, and you deserve to have your head coach fired. And McDermott was the ringleader of the whole crying and whining and moping thing, and that's not befitting of whatever the town Buffalo claims itself to be, as a blue-collar, hard-working town that goes and shovels 95 inches of snow on a Tuesday because it's the fun thing to do. I don't know. I've never been there. But it's one of those things where it's just Buffalo did this to themselves, man. They let Denver get out to an early lead. They played a great defensive structure in the second half, but then what happened? At the tail end, I think it was 34 yards of offense for Denver going into that final drive, and then Bo Nix just became what Bo Nix is. It's if good teams will win from play one to the final kneel down. Buffalo's not a good team. They're not doing that. This was look, as you mentioned, this was Buffalo's best chance to go back to the haven't been to going on 33 years now. No Mahomes, no Burrow, no Jackson, barely a one-legged Rodgers. No excuses. Herb wasn't playing well. No excuses. And this season is an abject failure because you didn't even win your division.
Yeah. That's the craziest part.
You let New England walk all over you, and sure, you beat them in one game. That's wonderful, but they still were a whisper away from being the number 1 overall seed in this conference, which is what you should have been. It's just, to me, it's inexcusable, and I'm surprised that Brandon Bean still has a job. But then again, I don't know nothing about being a general manager apparently, or an owner. But then the Pagulas are also just very mercurial. They still believe Brett Hull kicked the puck into the net back in '99, but water under the bridge. And so the thing that I've been saying for the longest time, and it's been on my head coach hot seat-o-meters for years now, because everyone and their mother, hi mom, was saying, oh, but McDermott's won all these games and Buffalo's doing this and all doing that. And I'm saying, but what do you have to show for it at the end of the day? Nothing. No Super Bowl appearances, let alone wins. The status quo can't be just to win 1 playoff game or 2 playoff games, and that's it. So Buffalo, it has to go to the drawing board and find somebody who will get them over the hump and push them to that next step. And maybe it's Brian Daboll. Maybe it's Anthony Weaver. I've heard his name bounced around a lot. Maybe he's the guy in Buffalo. But it wasn't Sean McDermott. He was just the guy to get them there. And now he's the guy that's looking for a job.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's head coaching position. It's arguably now the most coveted position if the news gets fully confirmed here by NFL insiders that the Ravens job is going to be sewn up. That might be the most coveted job to have in the league here, because you have an MVP caliber quarterback. Shouldn't have won it last year, but regardless, MVP caliber quarterback. You have a great running back there in Cook. You have decent pieces offensively. That's up for Brendan Bean to actually do his job and figure out, which, did he or did he not help draft Keon Coleman? Who knows at this point? But there's that whole debacle. There's a relatively solid defense. So just like the tragedy for them is that year after year after year after year after year after year, they get hurt. Someone gets hurt. And if it's not Milano, it's somebody else. It's like, it's just brutal for this team. And yeah, what is the stat we've all seen? Like they're the only team that has at least 1 playoff win in 6 consecutive years that didn't even make a Super Bowl. Didn't even win one, I think. I think they're the only one of those teams that didn't win one, right? It's the Chiefs, it's the Patriots, and it's at least one other team that at least won one. I've gone so back and forth about this. Like the game itself, it's discipline. It's, you had it at the end to be able to kick the game-tying field goal, but then you lose it with that play that ended up, ladies and gentlemen, crooks are crooks, a spade, a platypus is a platypus, and an interception is an interception as called by the NFL officiating crew. At the end of the day, you just have to buck up and get over it and move on. They didn't do that. It was just an absolutely tough one, ultimately speaking, for them to swallow, but that's what happens. But it's the fact that they even allowed, at the end of the day, 33 points. It's the fact that there was so many issues like fumbling with the interceptions, and in playoffs past with the blown leads, with the issues, as Rick pointed out, was their home field cursed? Who knows? Like, just so many different things. It's all these little things that add up. And I've gone back and forth. Should McDermott have been fired?
Yes.
I think Bean should have been fired too. Like, that's my number one problem. This whole, I'm sorry. I don't like saying people should be fired, but bro shouldn't have been, he should not be the GM. He
got promoted.
Yeah. Okay. He should not be the one making key football decisions for the Bills right now, because it's very clear, whatever your opinion is of Sean McDermott, it's fair to say that the roster's lacking, and Sean McDermott ain't make that roster. He's coaching what he can out of that roster sometimes. And that's why I think, to Justin's point, it's going to be interesting with this many jobs still in the open. Is Sean McDermott going to quickly go back to another head coaching position? Is he going to take a year off? I mean, he did just get fired, so I don't know how that's going to work contractually, because we had mentioned it with the Tomlin thing a week or so back about how no one can properly hire him for a little bit. So what will be the deal with McDermott? If you're Pagula, you might as well release him and let him go somewhere else if you didn't think he was that good of a coach worth keeping anyways. But we know they're not going to do that, because why would logic reign at any kind of supreme in Buffalo when it comes to the Pagula family? I don't know. It's so hard to think of this game without thinking about the 48 to 72 hours that has transpired after the game, which is the letting go of the head coach, the general manager who shouldn't have a job, technically no longer being the general manager because he's executive VP of whatever football decision making, whatever fancy title they want. They just make up titles nowadays to give people freaking promotions and jobs. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Yeah, it's tough to think about just solely the game with everything that has transpired after the fact that this is just another disappointing season of Buffalo, because like Rick said, your chain got snatched. The Patriots have taken the AFC East back away from you. And if you don't build up a good enough roster, it might be theirs to stay for a bit, which is something that people are not happy about. Justin, of course, feel free to talk about everything that has happened since that Rick and I are predominantly focusing on. But like the game itself, you kind of mentioned it there. The Josh Allen, 5 turnovers he was responsible for, right? It was the 2 interceptions and the 3 fumbles. Did he lose all 3 fumbles? Right? He lost all 3, or he lost at least 2 out of the 3. So,
I don't know.
Quick.
5.
I see it.
You know what? TBD. But no, Josh Allen, 5 5 turnover worthy plays, 2 of them being interceptions, miscues, drives that could have gone somewhere that didn't, drives that should have been finished in a touchdown but had to settle for a field goal. That's a story of a lot of Buffalo Bills playoff losses, to say the very least. So, Justin, your take on the Bills before we move on from them.
Excuse me.
Granted, there ain't much to talk about the second Saturday game, so you have the time that you want on this one.
No, I mean, first of all, I want to draw attention to a really gutsy and impressive performance by Bo Nix to keep that team in the game. I know a lot of it was defense, but coming on the stretch, he was excellent to lead his team into overtime. I know there was calls, but to break his ankle, still stay in there and help his team win. The only thing that could have been even better is if that was like an AFC championship or a Super Bowl. So good for him. It is a tough blow. And now I want to talk about how pissed off I am at both of these teams. I mean, you couldn't even make it a challenge for this goddamn Patriots team. I got to watch another freaking Patriots team start to dominate this division. I finally was moving past it. My scarring was getting better. All right. The trauma was disappearing. Oh, the Patriots. Oh, they were so bad for 2 goddamn years. Who cares? I had to deal with Tom Brady for all this time. And now all of a sudden you're going to have an MVP caliber quarterback that's going to waltz into the Super Bowl because he plays a quarterbackless Denver Bronco team. And Josh Allen couldn't get the goddamn job done. I'm trying so hard not to curse right now. This is unbelievable. What did I do in life to deserve this as a sports fan? Who did I hurt? Honestly. I mean, I know, I believe in the NFC at this point. I think that the 2 best teams left are probably the Seahawks and the Rams. But gosh, golly, I hope that whoever makes it to the freaking Super Bowl is ready to demolish this Patriots team, because I cannot survive another dynasty like this. I don't have any faith in my team. All I have left is the hate in my heart, and it's the only thing keeping me going. And God damn it, I cannot survive more success from a team that I hate this much. It's too much.
So you don't believe in Jarrett Stidham then, do you?
I'm praying. But no, I don't.
I was going to say he hates the Patriots, but he needs a former Patriot to buck up this weekend.
I will buy a Jarrett Stidham Broncos jersey if they win.
Ooh.
I will. I'm putting it out there now.
Ooh.
Purchase will be made. Forget a team. He's going to follow Jarrett Stidham the rest of his career.
Oh, boy.
You know, if you're the Broncos, how much of a finesse is it? Imagine Jarrett Stidham can actually win you this game. Damn what happens in the Super Bowl. You know there's going to be a team out there that's like, you know, Jarrett Stidham really played well in the AFC Championship game, and they're going to trade a 3rd-round pick for him and pay him like $45 million per year.
No, the Jets will trade the number 2 overall pick for Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, that would honestly, I'll take a curse like that.
Yeah.
As long as the Patriots lose.
Yeah.
As long as the Patriots lose. I'm used to the Jets being terrible.
It's true. It's so true. You can't even deny it. It's so true.
Stidham parlays 2 games into a 3-year, $27 million contract or whatever it is.
No, Rick. In this economy, it's going to be like 3 years, $39 million. Homes are expensive nowadays.
Especially in New York. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. That I think is the great equalizer, though, is the known unknown of Jarrett Stidham. I mean, I think
poor Bo Nix, that looked like such a looked like nothing happened that they're saying the play that ultimately hurt him.
Right back up.
Yeah, dude, adrenaline is something special.
It is. I mean, it's not just Bo Nix though. I think there were a couple other like key receivers that were hurt.
Yeah, at least
Pat Bryant, I think, was out. Troy
Yeah.
Franklin wasn't playing. So Denver's really shorthanded. It's going to be
they're going to need that defense to play like no-fly zone.
It's going to be the Jarrett Stidham and Lil Jordan Humphrey show, which is not a sentence that I ever thought I would say, but here we are.
I was going to say, if you think offensively, I think the number one thing for what Denver has to do going into that New England game, and we'll get into that preview more so. Like, aside from Bo Nix, they only had 41 rushing yards as a team.
Yeah.
Like, if you take away whatever he was able to do, like, not a lot of inspiring plays from that Broncos backfield there.
I just want to stress it, and this is very important, and this goes back to my Sean McDermott thing. If Denver wins this game, then Lil Jordan Humphrey will have made a Super Bowl before Josh Allen did. And Lil Jordan Humphrey will be in a Super Bowl before we get the release of GTA 6.
A lot of things are going to happen before GTA 6. So
that's true.
Let's not hold our breath on that one.
That's true.
We're acting like anyone in this podcast is even going to buy the game.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
speaking of GTA 6, how about that Seattle game?
There were multiple robberies in that one, and we're not talking about taking a game from someone. Well, at least the refs didn't take a game away from someone. The players on Seattle took that game away from the San Francisco 49ers. Look, Christian McCaffrey, you tried your best. The injury demon did all it could for San Francisco to keep him healthy, but he was never going to win that game by himself. Brock Purdy, 1 interception, played very mediocre, sacked and pressured all the livelong day. Multiple fumbles lost by the San Francisco 49ers as well. And Seattle, they just absolutely suffocated them. Sam Darnold didn't really need to do much. Only 1 passing touchdown, under 130 passing yards. But the rushing attack, Kenneth Walker, you want to talk about balance in a rushing attack. How about you just give the number 1 guy the ball and let him run? 116 yards, 3 touchdowns, finishing plays off. Cooper Kupp did what he had to do. JSN, not a massive game, but he got a touchdown when it mattered the most, and that defense just absolutely did what it had to do. Not like, not eye-boggling numbers, only just 2 sacks on the game, but pressure, constant pressure, getting in Brock Purdy's face, giving a little shove, little hit after the play was just about over, right? And veterans, DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams, 2 guys from other teams, making plays for you on that defensive line. Seattle just absolutely suffocated and destroyed. A San Francisco team, this team was the hottest team in football before they faced Seattle 2 times in a 3-game span. And look what happened. San Francisco was able to escape Philly. There was no escape from Seattle. What can we say about that other than it was a demolition by Seattle being arguably the class of the NFC this year?
It hurts Justin because you see Sam Darnold and Leonard Williams are a step away from the Super Bowl now as well.
No.
He doesn't care.
I'm so happy.
Justin expects former Jets to perform after they leave the New York City metropolitan area. He just does not want
guys
the
I didn't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them. I thought it was a mistake at the time, and I'm glad to see that they're succeeding now.
Well, I mean, Sam Darnold throwing for 124 yards and 1 touchdown because he didn't have to do anything else is he's kind of evolving into Trent Dilfer, I would think, nowadays. Doesn't have to do anything. Just let everybody else kind of around him do the job, in a sense. What is Seattle going to do, though? No Charbonnet. Torn ACL.
It sucks. I think Charbonnet is a good running back. Kenneth Walker proved he can carry you a game. He literally just did that.
But you know who
literally just did that.
But you know who's with Seattle? It could be a very interesting turn of fate story. Cam Akers.
The former Ram. The revenge game.
Listen, this game was over from the opening kickoff.
Oh, yeah. Rashid Shaheed by himself won this game.
And how about that trade the Seahawks made to get him from New Orleans? What dividends that's paying off now. But that's the thing is that I heard some analysts talk about it. It wasn't Ryan Clark because I don't listen to garbage like that. But it was somebody else. And they said, Seattle doesn't have to do anything, really. Once they take a lead, it just swells into an avalanche from there. Their defense plays with this fire and intensity. And then from there, the offense can just use a very short field, kind of play its way through, and they'll do what needs to be done. And so, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened. San Francisco was just bitten by one too many injury bugs. And so...
Think about 15.
Yeah, and so it all caught up to them in the end. And we saw Seattle just be as dominant as they were. It's interesting that like the domination that they pulled in this game, you haven't really seen a lot of it, partially because nobody really watches Seattle games because they're either on so late or they're in the West Coast games and it's already 4:25 or whatever. But yeah, this team is dangerous, man. This team is Legion of Boom 2.0. Mike McDonald doesn't get enough credit for galvanizing this team the way that they are. It's a testament to their coordinators. They have some really good coordinators on this roster who I think are going to get head coaching looks. And yeah, once again, the road to the Super Bowl goes through the Pacific Northwest and the NFC. And that's terrifying for the Rams to have to think about that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to say the very least, because that Seattle defense, it looks legit. Yep. It's a very legitimate looking defense that all they need is a good enough offense, and that defense alone can win them the game. It's going to be on paper, this is a really good NFC Championship game. Not so much for the AFC Championship game. Patriots Texans defense, man, you got to give them credit. They tried. They had a great year. Does not help when your quarterback throws as many back-breaking interceptions as it does. That was the story of the losing teams of the AFC. Their quarterbacks just absolutely melting. Yeah, only 48 rushing yards as a team. Not great. I'd also argue your quarterback throwing 4 interceptions, not ideal. Especially the guy who's in theory supposed to be the franchise quarterback. Still not ideal. So while CJ Stroud texts Caleb Williams and they try to exchange tips about how to throw the football in the postseason, the New England Patriots defeated pretty handily the Houston Texans. Again, you want to talk about what defense is doing for teams. The Patriots defense is allowing Drake May to have solid games. He hasn't been amazing. He's maybe had like a play or two here and there, but they've allowed him to have good enough games, solid games, doing just enough, a balance. It was more Ramondre Stevenson himself than Henderson, but relatively balanced rushing game combined with a Patriots team that, starting from the Chargers game, essentially all but shutting them out. They might as well have shut them out, it feels like, at this point, and then getting the 4 interceptions. That Seahawks defense against the Patriots defense, that looks like it could be the monster. Really, the Seahawks, talent-wise, 4 of the best defenses in all of football are here in the conference championship games, right? You have the natural drafting of what the Rams have done for years now. You have the also drafting of the Seahawks team, to be fair. All these teams have drafted well. Let's move that across. But the youth movement of the Rams defense and replacing the Hall of Fame talent that they once had, the just utter transformation of the Seahawks defense from what they were, I think, in the last couple of years of Pete Carroll's tenure there to what McDonald has led them to become. The Denver Broncos finding a new version of their personal no-fly zone, right? And the New England Patriots with Mike Vrabel there. These are 4 of the best, 6, 7, 8 defenses in the National Football League that are remaining at this point. It really just goes to show that the old adage of defense wins championships, it's still true in blue. and all these teams have blue in some way, shape, or form. Let that be noted. But no, in all seriousness, that Patriots team just suffocated the Texans. Justin, I know this is going to hurt you. Say your quick comments about that game real fast. Just a tough one from CJ Stroud. And then Rick, do we need to bring up conversations about CJ Stroud again?
Just disappointing, man. Disappointing.
It hurt your heart.
It hurt. It hurt all the way through. And I want to blame the defense for not being able to keep him out of the end zone. But realistically, when you have that many opportunities and you start with good field position, realistically, any NFL offense outside the Jets are probably going to score a touchdown at least once or twice.
And to be fair, the Texans did sack Drake May 5 times. That was probably the worst game that offensive line played in a while.
I'm not saying not, but you have to still be in position to succeed, and they just never were. So disappointment. Hopefully they can bounce back, and hopefully somebody can take this down.
I'm starting to back up again, man.
It's so true.
Starting to back up again.
Rick's, for like a year or two, it looked a little iffy on all the colleges that Rick always took shots at, but no, it's coming back.
Oh no, it's back with a vengeance, my friends. why wouldn't you replace him at halftime? I get that he's the young franchise quarterback, but I'm going to tell you something. I think Davis Mills could have won them this game. He would have played at least mistake-free football. Now look, the Texans were hampered. They had no Nico Collins in this game. They lost Dalton Schultz. Higgins was fine. Noel was fine. Kirk was playing out of his mind because it's Christian Kirk. It's one of the hallmarks and staples of our show is Christian Kirk is amazing at everything he does. But the running game was just atrocious. Couldn't get anything going against this underrated, I will call them, underrated Patriots defense. I don't think we expected them to be, I know, I don't expect them to be as good as they were. But again, it does help too when Stroud is throwing up lollipop balls all over the place with no care concern. He looked like he was just like, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. Oh, okay. I'll throw another one again. Oh, that one got intercepted too. Huh.
I love this character Rick is playing. Just
like there was no emotion from it. There was no anything. It looked like he was just going through his normal Sunday munchies. It was like you have to be better as a quarterback. And again, it's the third year since Stroud was drafted and DeMeco Ryans is head coach. The Texans do not make it out of the Final Four of their conference. If push would come to shove, they could have been hosting the AFC title game, or at least in it, but too many mistakes, too many injuries, too much concern about, CJ Stroud not playing well. The defense was fine, but this was the game that the hallmark of this game was that every great defense has one fatal flaw. When they're on the field for too long, they suffer. That maybe the second to last scoring drive for New England or the final one, when the running attack just gashed through the middle because guys like Alshire and Anderson, they were just gassed, man. They were tired because they've been keeping the team on their back for as long as they have.
Yep.
And, and listen, it also wasn't a great game for Drake May either. He had 3 fumbles and 3 turnovers. The ball was flying all over the place and going toward different teams. But, sometimes it's not about winning the game or losing the game. Sometimes it's about just making less mistakes. That's unfortunately for Justin what New England did there. And now we have Denver and a backup quarterback and Drake May, and New England. Basically, the AFC game that Justin hopes will cause his TV to collapse into a blizzard, which is going to happen this weekend anyways. So,
it's a lot of questions for Houston to answer. Even a good unit, you still need to make sure it stays up. So retool the defense slightly, maybe a little bit more depth, maybe an improvement here, improvement there. You don't want to do too much to a unit that was great. Head coaching staff is relatively good. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot more questions on an offense that you would like to have after 3 years after using the second overall pick to draft a franchise quarterback. Or was it third overall pick? Whatever selection they ended up using because they traded up for 2 and 3 or trade up for one of those. No, not ideal for Houston. They had a lot of people cheering for them, and they did not come through. So it's a tough one there. 5 interceptions throughout 2 playoff games this year for Stroud. Not good. Like you said, they'll get the one win, and sayonara. At some point, they must win. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And honestly, if it weren't for a Colts second half collapse, they wouldn't have even made the playoffs this year as well. So
that's right.
There's a lot that needs to be worked on in Houston, to say the very least. Houston, you have a couple of problems, and unfortunately, the quarterback might just be one of them. Oh boy. Moving on to the final game of the weekend, and you know what? We started the divisional round weekend with a quarterback throwing a back-breaking interception in overtime, and ironically, we did the same thing in the other game as well. What a gritty game Lions-Rams ended up becoming when there was an interception on the first drive of the game. Fantastic. Then back-to-back touchdowns. Then 3 straight punts, turnover and downs, punt, field goal. We punt, we field goal, and all that jazz. Touchdown for the Rams. Looked like they were relatively in control, but we were texting about that Bears black magic. Williams, that Bears black magic that they tied the game again, and they're going to overtime. The Rams punt, and it's like, oh no, are the Bears about to do it again? No, they weren't, because this time when Caleb Williams threw it, and it's saying it was to DJ Moore in the play-by-play, it didn't work out this time around. Interception thrown by Caleb Williams in overtime sets the Rams up in a relatively good position. They started from their own 22. So, if we're being realistic here, that was a much needed interception by that Rams defense that came up big in the biggest moment that they had to. And they're able to go down the field. A play that was reviewed with Devontae Adams, I thought it was clean. I thought it was a catch. I didn't think it was worth reviewing, but I think it was that the officials themselves reviewed it. The replay official reviewed it, and they ended up upholding. But the Rams ended up doing what they had to do. They were able to go down. A 16-yard connection from Stafford to Puka Nacua helped set them up. It's a game-winning field goal. The Los Angeles Rams are going back to the NFC Championship game. Look, improvements still need to be made. I think Ben Johnson was a phenomenal first-year head coach. I think he brought energy, brought a lot of things to that Bears team. Still stuff that needs to be fixed, but I think it was a great year. I think it's very similar. They just got a step further than what the Jags did. And again, I still double middle fingers to anyone that has any critique whatsoever of what happened in that press conference with Cohen and the reporter. Just get a life, touch grass. How about you have some empathy in this world? But I think if you're the Bears, I think that was a phenomenal year. I think Caleb Williams, he hasn't made the franchise quarterback definitive leap yet. He's a lot closer this year than he was at the end of his rookie season, to say the very least. He's made improvements. That offense showed some real potential. They showed some real growth. A lot of guys had some good years. He gave an energy to them. They made it way farther than any of us would have expected. Who here had the Chicago Bears winning a division within 2 years of him being the head coach, let alone in the first year? So yeah, he always has that happening.
Always.
But no, shout out to the Bears. You can hang your hat on a lot of good things from this season, but you have to learn. And Chicago, let this be my message of warning to you. Warning, I said, although it could be morning in a year from now. You will never build a sustainable football team off of second half and fourth quarter comebacks. It's not going to happen. That's not how you win year over year over year over year, and that's not how you win a Super Bowl.
See, I thought that we were keeping on brand. I thought you were going to say something about you can never win anything with Dennis Allen as your defensive coordinator.
I keep forgetting he's the defensive coordinator. Yeah. He is the definition of he should never be a head coach, but the guy's a coordinator through and through. You got to give him credit.
Mid.
No, ultimately, Chicago, growing pains. You have lessons to learn. You did a lot of good this year. Don't hang your hat on everything, though. Hang your hat on some things. You can't hang your hat on everything, though, because this is a team that very much got away with some really, really poor performances by opponents this year. Not going to happen again. I literally told a friend of mine, the Bears were able to take advantage of the Green Bay Packers and mistakes that they made. Rams aren't going to make those same kind of mistakes necessarily. Lo and behold, what did the Rams do in the most important possession in overtime? They got the interception. They sealed the game. Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua showed up on 2 critical catches to set up the game-winning field goal. Packers were not going to do that. Niners were not going to do that. LA did, though. Chicago, best of luck. I hope you build well. Phenomenal season again, but this ain't sustainable, and you better learn some lessons going into 2026. But all in all, phenomenal year for them. So there's my analysis of that. And I think Rick's byline says it all there. Where did Caleb Williams go, ladies and gentlemen?
University of Southern California. One of the worst schools to draft somebody from in the first round or number 1 overall. Yeah, it's backbreaking because realistically speaking, I mean, this was another case when it was the Bears' year. The Lions weren't in the playoffs after a down season. The Packers were down. The Vikings somehow finished 9-8 this year. No Eagles remaining in the playoffs. You could have. I think Seattle Chicago would have been a very entertaining game. It's just too many errors, too many mistakes, The problem with these quarterbacks nowadays is too many passes just being thrown up for grabs, up in the air when you're trying to make a key play or hope that your receiver catches a 50-50 ball or a jump ball or whatever, or doesn't stop their route because they are tired or because they hit on their parlay at BetMGM and are like, well, if I catch one more ball, it's not going to work for me. So tough for Chicago though. The Rams, they escape, again. Let's call it what it is. They escaped again. And it's just a matter now, I think, of how they can adapt to playing a third time against Seattle in what's going to be an environment that is not going to be very friendly to them. Maybe Matt Stafford has a couple more tricks up his sleeve and can conjure up one more Super Bowl run and then right off into the I will tell you this: if that is the case, Puka Nacua has been phenomenal this postseason for them, and that has really been their saving grace because their running attack has been okay to fine at best. They're not going to really get a lot of running attack against Seattle. So it's going to have to rely on Stafford passing to Nacua or Parkinson. Maybe Kanata Mumfield is going to make a few catches here or there down the stretch, but it's interesting. And again, you feel for Chicago because this was, I think, their best chance. Maybe they'll get back next year, but I mean, I don't know, man. When you have the iron as hot as it was, this would have been the perfect time to strike, and it didn't happen that way for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think they have a good young core. I think this is something they can build upon, but it's going to take a lot of work. You can't just coast off of playing complete games. I mean, you did play complete games, but you have to actually, maybe you can argue they didn't play complete games because they were constantly falling behind. There is talent there. There is a lot, but I mean, they just have to really capitalize on building. And now the question is, do we trust the GM? Because we didn't trust the coach and the GM a year ago. Now we have a new coach, and all of a sudden they're very good. Can the GM capitalize on what looks like a very good beginning to the tenure of Ben Johnson as a head coach? We see what's happening now in Detroit, where they're struggling a little bit without him. It looks like they maybe need a little bit of talent. We're going to be questioning that GM next year if they can't figure it out. But the question, this is way farther than anyone else expected. Can they build?
Yeah, simply put. Like, we were talking about that with the new head coaches and their spots. Like, teams have to keep building. Like, this is just a constant in the NFL. Like, you have to keep building. You cannot stay stagnant. You cannot stay the same because the league will pass you by, and what found you success the year before will be your ultimate downfall a year later. We've seen it time and again. So, like, again, our comments about the Bears, we don't want to poo-poo the season they had. They far surpass any expectations. Even if you thought they could have maybe competed for a cheeky 7th seed, far surpassed what they were expected to do. Now there's going to be expectations. Now, if a good year, your schedule gets harder. Now this, now that. You gotta be able to adapt. What was I saying before? Roll with the punches. You gotta punch back. You don't win a championship with just taking hits. You got to deliver some yourself. It'll be interesting to see with the improvements they try to make what they do. And these Final Four teams are teams that know how to roll with the punches and can throw some themselves. Boys, that was the divisional round. Let's move on quickly to the conference championship games. Let's stay in the NFC since we were talking about the NFC side here to finish things off. Seattle, LA. On Seattle's side of things, I think we can all agree, Kenneth Walker with the amazing game he had, can he do it again? But if Sam Darnold has to take more of a role in this one, which he probably is going to have to, I don't think they're going to necessarily just be able to run Kenneth Walker all the livelong day. Is he going to be able to make consistent big-time throws? Is he going to make the smart plays? Is he going to make will the Seahawks' offensive drives continue to be sustainable? And can they move that ball against a pretty good Rams defense? JSN needs to have a bigger game. And Cooper Kupp, I want to talk about a revenge game. This is a revenge game for Cooper Kupp on his side of things. And you were kind of mentioning it, Rick. Stafford's probably going to have to end up throwing the ball a lot. Is that sustainable? Can Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua gash the Seattle Seahawks team that has been pretty good? And which defense is going to blink first in the Seahawks-Ram game? So much to look at and break down on this one. I'm kind of with Justin. I think the two best teams remaining in the playoffs are both on the NFC side right now, and one of them has to lose this game this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, this would be a really good Super Bowl matchup, I think, if it was able to be that way. Um, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Rams defense hasn't been as good in the playoffs as they were in the regular season. They haven't been as good this regular season as they were in other regular seasons. That doesn't mean that they can't turn back the clock at least some point and really stick it to Seattle, which again is going to rely then on the Seahawks defense to respond in kind. Um, and that's where factor for this game it would be the rookie safety Nick Emmanwori because he's got a lot of versatility for coverages and for being able to come up and make the tackles. Well, got to make sure you can tackle Nakua and Adams in the open field. Otherwise, you're going to be running after them and watch them score a touchdown and wave bye-bye to your fans as they're leaving, to go to the fish market and sling some bass or some salmon, So it's going to be a real fun one. It's going to be a real testament to how good these teams are. And again, it might be a testament to how much we've all been underrating Seattle because for them to be the number one seed and for them to be blowing out their opponents as they have been, I think going into that game, yes, this past weekend they were plus 191, I said, and they beat San Francisco by 35. So it doesn't really take a genius to tell you that this Seattle offense is very good, but their defense is even more lethal and even more catastrophic if you're not ready for them.
Indeed. It's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. Justin, what is your X factor in this one?
It's got to be the offense for Seattle, right? Because the defenses are both strong. We're expecting the Rams to put up some points regardless of how strong the defense is. We expect Nakua to play well. They love Devontae Adams. Kyron Williams is a beast. Underrated touchdown scorer, considering he scores a touchdown like almost every game. Crazy. So the question is, can Sam Darnold get that offense going? And can they at least keep pace? And are we going to have to see another fourth quarter comeback? Because let's face it, that game in the regular season might have been the best football game I've ever watched. They need to maybe not rely on falling behind again and scoring 3 touchdowns with 3 2-point conversions in the fourth quarter and overtime. That seems like a tall task to do twice. So, yeah, that's really what it is. They got to keep pace and they got to make sure that offense.
Yep. Let's move over to Broncos Patriots before our predictions. I mean, Jarrett Stidham is going to need to pull out a Nick Foles type performance here. Nick Foles in the Super Bowl type performance. In this one, it's good Patriots defense. It's good Broncos defense. It's already good defenses. I think all three of us agree it's 2 really good defenses. Rick, both you and I pointed out earlier, Drake May has not looked the best in the postseason. He's looked good. He's looked fine. He's made some throws. He hasn't looked what he did at his best in the regular season, right? He has done some things. Nothing game-breaking, nothing spectacular. And again, in the last game, the Texans did get to him a little bit. They bothered him a little bit, forced mistakes from 5 times, at least for sacks, finishing the play. It's proven that you can potentially throw a wrench into things in New England. The problem is that can your offense sustain enough? Literally, this game rides on, ironically, can the Broncos offense do anything to alleviate the burden on the defense and challenge the Patriots? If Jarrett Stidham can put together a couple, whether it's him finishing it with a passing touchdown or if Sean Payton can, I mentioned it before, they had a very just non-existent rushing attack against the Bills. If they can pull something out there, and if Jarrett Stidham can make a couple of throws, they have a puncher's chance in this one. But you're asking for a lot of ifs right now for a team that, I mean, we kind of said the Rams kind of squeaked by, the Bears have squeaked by with their wins. I think the Broncos are lucky in that Bills game, and it's. Look, sometimes to be lucky, to be lucky, you need to be good. But now you got to be good to earn the right to be lucky. And if you're the Broncos, you really got to turn it on against the Patriots. So, what can they do? I think I don't want to boil it down to one specific thing. Is there anything else to focus on as the X factor aside from the Broncos' offense in this one?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry.
Elaborate.
Jeremy Crawshaw and how Darren Rizzi decides to use him. The Australian punter, the rookie for the Broncos, because one of the big keys for New England is how they can turn the field around. Marcus Jones is one of the best punt returners of all time in his very short career. And I think the game plan for Rizzi and for the special teams unit has to be to utilize the advantage of playing in Mile High to keep the ball away from Marcus Jones as much as possible. You know, Crawshaw has to get clean lanes to punt the ball as far as he can, angle the ball out of bounds, force Jones to make fair catches or have to run after the ball, down the ball deep in New England's territory, make work on long drives. If they can do that, and if let's say that Denver has the ball first and they go 5 or 6 plays, they're at the 50-yard line, but then they get stopped and they got a punt. Or let's say the 38 and they got stopped and they get a punt. If Crawshaw can turn the field so that New England starts their first drive at the 10 or the 8, Denver's defense is going to come out there charged up because the fans are going to be nuts because New England's pinned back in their own territory, and then we'll be able to kind of end the game. If Crawshaw kicks a line drive or a shank or a Matt Dodge type of punt, and Marcus Jones can return it and has lanes to run, New England's going to score intangible points on special teams because they have one of the best that ever do it. So that's why Denver's special teams unit has to be on its A game in this one. They have to dominate those fourth down punts and those kickoffs. They cannot let New England get any source of momentum or any semblance of a good return off. Otherwise, the Patriots are just going to rule the roost from kickoff to punt and then beyond from there. So I think that's a big X factor too. You can't just rely on offense and defense. Denver special teams has to come up big in this game in order for them to win.
Well, I think they're all going to have to come up big, all sides of the ball. But really, my question is, can Jared Stidham play a clean game? We've seen him play where he's had a lot of turnovers. And as good as his defense is, the thing that, erases strong defensive play is high turnover rate. That's just what it is. You give the other team good field position. There's only so much you can stop a professional NFL offense, especially at this level. I mean, they're in the AFC Championship game for a reason. Can he play a clean game?
And that's going to be the burning question going into this one. Boys, it's time for predictions. AFC Championship game predictions. Rick, I'll throw it to you first. Who you got?
I want the fairy tale to continue. I really want this fairy tale to continue. I want this to be the new Jeff Hostetler story, the new Nick Foles story. I would love nothing more than for Jarrett Stidham to go out there and throw a couple touchdown passes, to have Denver's defense just stymie Drake May and stymie Ramondre Stevenson and the Patriots on offense. But I'm sorry, Justin. I don't see how it can. I would love to see it, but I don't see how it can happen. So I will submit that the AFC representative in the Super Bowl for the first time in what feels like forever, but really isn't that many years, are the boys from Boston. The New England Patriots will be the AFC champion once again.
Well, Foxborough Zone will be going to the Super Bowl. Justin?
Oh.
Are you just omitting picking the AFC Championship game? Okay, fair enough.
Won't do it.
I'll be fun. I'll be unique. I'll pick Denver, just so we technically have different opinions on this. I think Denver's defense can do enough. I think Pat Surtain and Co. can really do a bang-up job. I think Sean Payton is saving something on this one. I think he has to get creative in this one. You don't really have much of a choice. Look, right now, just get to it. You'll figure it out when you get there. Every single play you have in the book, every single scheme, every single look, every single lineup, every single trick play. Do what you have to do to get by this game. I think it's going to be like I think this game's going to be a slugfest. This is going to be like a 17-14 2017 game. Like that's what it's going to be. So that's my prediction. NFC Championship game. Justin, we'll start things off with you.
I'm really torn on this one too. So I struggled with the NFC last week because I was very torn with this Rams-Bears game. I really don't want to pick against the Rams, but I really feel like Seattle, if Seattle's firing on all cylinders, they are probably the best team in football right now. They're just so complete in every phase of the ball. It seems like they can make a play happen. But it's just hard to count out Stafford. I mean, is Stafford that caliber quarterback where he's a multiple Super Bowl winning quarterback? It's possible. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer already, but that would certainly help his case. So, I mean, at this point, I think it's just got to go with a gut feeling. All year long, I thought the Rams were a better team, but it just depends on what Seattle team you're seeing. I guess I want to go with my gut here and say that the Rams have had this game circled for a few weeks now. And I don't necessarily see them making the same mistakes that they did last time. So I'll go with LA.
Number one scoring offense means number one scoring defense. Can't ask for anything better than that, I would assume, right? There's a reason why they say defense wins championships, though. This Seattle defense is electric. And I think they're going to bother Matt Stafford enough that he's going to be forced into making some uncharacteristic throws, some uncharacteristic decisions. And I think that's just going to balloon and swell and become a tidal wave. And that tidal wave is going to send Seattle down the Pacific Coast Highway to Santa Clara. I think you're going to have a Super Bowl 50 rematch. The only thing different is that it'll be Bad Bunny stinking up the halftime show instead of Coldplay. So, but give me the Seahawks.
All right. I'm with you guys. Like, as much as I think the Rams were good this season, I think Seattle, it's about getting really good at the right time, and they're humming and hawing at the right time. Look, Rams are good. I think it'll be a relatively close game, but I could see Seattle making the key play or two at the end to pull away in this one. Seahawks winning this. So I have a Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl. Rick has a Seahawks-Patriots Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And Justin has the Seahawks just walking into the Super Bowl arena in a couple weeks' time and just automatically lifting the Lombardi Trophy. No one comes out of the AFC.
I put the Rams.
Well, yeah,
Rams, my bad. He has the
Rams.
Rams. Either way.
Case. I don't care who it is from the NFC. Just get the job done.
Yeah. So Justin has the Rams walking into where are they going to be in a couple weeks' time? Santa Clara. He has them walking into Santa Clara, and they're going to lift up the Lombardi Trophy. No game will be played. That is Justin's Super Bowl right there. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our predictions. That was our analysis. That was our talk. That ends the football this week. Now, let's finish things off, as per usual, with the chaos. Podfather, please take us home.
As per usual, honorable mention, Dallas Cowboys, because it's just the right thing to do for all of that. My number 3 this week goes to the Associated Press and college basketball pollsters in general. We need to stop this bias that, just because a team is a lesser conference, that they don't deserve to be ranked. Miami of Ohio is 20-0. Rank them higher. Who else is 20-0? Nobody? Well, rank them higher. There you go. Problem solved. It's a great story. You feel for the Red Hawks. They're a very good team, and I think they deserve to be ranked higher than that. When I played NCAA basketball, what was it, 05 or 06 on PS2 many moons ago, I took Idaho State to the title game. We were 31-0 going into the NCAA playoffs. You know what Idaho State was? A 6 seed at 31-0. The only unbeaten, a 6 seed. Because the game knew that the Associated Press is a bunch of con artists and hacks. So, and obviously, again, when we get into the NFL honors voting and the AP voting, we're going to see it again. The AP is going to go, oh, well, I think this person's very popular, so I'm going to give my MVP vote to Dak Prescott, even though he didn't play very well. But I know that name, and Dallas is a very good team, so therefore I'm voting for him as my MVP. Yuck! Freaking goofies all over the place over there.
Oh, gosh.
You're still awake? Oh, boy. See, Sienna's not, though. Sienna is passed out on the couch like crazy. Number 2, I don't care, Brooklyn Beckham, about your family drama. I don't care. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares about who said what to your mannequin of a wife, and how. Shut up. Shut up. First of all, you make terrible pasta. I watched a video of him making pasta out of a cheese wheel once, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Because he's just like this pale, Twilight-looking, vampire-esque son of a soccer player that nobody even cares about. It is Brooklyn, anyways. God, you're annoying. Jeez. Again, if you think that people care about the minutia of your lives, in the words of Dr. Perry Cox from Scrubs, welcome to the first ever Who Cares These Awards? Because no one gives a crap. So stop it. And now for my number 1. I want to go back to college basketball because if you saw recently, St. John's fired a member of its staff, and it was the general manager of the basketball program. What does that job even entail? You're the general manager of a college basketball program. Like, that's not even a good enough title for your Hinge profile, let alone an actual resume booster. Like, what we have to stop with this, director of basketball operations for college sports, or general managers, or head boosters, or anything like that. This is why college sports are being ruined, because you're creating these ridiculous job titles that belong in the NHL and the KHL only, and nowhere else. And so, it's like, oh, well, he's fired, but we're going to hire a new one. No, how about you just dissolve the position and figure it out yourself? It reeks of laziness in the coaching world, that we have to have positions for every single person, and every single job has to be divvied up to somebody else. Meanwhile, in the rest of America, you have one person doing 5 jobs at once. Like, why does college basketball get to be so autonomous in that way, where we have one person who's the senior assistant for travel and leisure, or the college basketball director of catering? Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Go through Easy Cater, get the kids their terrible shrimp parm heroes for their bus ride back from Providence, and move on with your life. Like, enough. And that's for you, Rick Pitino. Enough. I'm fed up with you. I really am. But that's another conversation for another day. I'm getting more cake too, by the way. So
fantastic.
Yes.
Love the Dr. Cox Scrub reference at the end. I will always say yes to more Scrubs references. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Coaches hired, team seasons set ablaze, the playoffs rage on, the superb owl. Teams will be decided after this weekend. Fun, football, and chaos all the way around. And we enjoy it here on this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's edition of the show. We will be back next week to review the conference championship games, maybe review a couple more coach hirings, and, 2 weeks until the Super Bowl preview. So on that note, from the fake ring at the bottom and the cake-eating fork on the top row with me, I bid you all adieu. I bid you all a good night. Take care, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.
Bang!